So for those who didn't see this tweet from Jacob Wolf, Jacob Wolf's a very well-known esports writer. Doesn't typically write pieces like this unless it's true or some major news happens. But the tweet reads, breaking, the majority of Overwatch League teams have hired a British law firm to collectively bargain against Activision Blizzard amid growing frustrations around operation costs, lackluster viewership, and a distinct lack of a path to profitability. Some teams have spent more than $16 million in franchise fees and operation costs since buying into the league in 2017, and the league still has zero sponsors or a media rights deal after the expiration of its deal with YouTube. No personal slight to the Outlaws either. Oh, okay, that goes ahead. That goes into the article. So I'm not that surprised, to be honest with you. For those who don't know, I actually used to work in Overwatch League. I used to work with the Uprising as a community coordinator. That also explains probably why I was paid $15 an hour with a degree from a really good school and esports experience, and actually knew how to run their stuff. But they had no clue. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just salty at that point. But anyways, let's see what Jacob has to say. But I'm not that surprised by this, so let's see. Overwatch League teams start collective bargaining process against League. Oh, I can actually make this bigger. Let's do that, yeah. Against League, the teams are seeking some form of economic relief after the years of high operating costs and disappointing revenues. The majority of Overwatch League teams have retained a British law firm to start a collective bargaining process against the league after years of high operating costs and continually missed promises on revenue. The teams have hired Sheridan's, a media and technology focused law firm with experience in both traditional sports and esports, to negotiate on their behalf with the league. Sources familiar to those discussions told Jacob Wolf report. So, okay, that doesn't tell us a whole lot, but that does tell us that they're not happy with each other, at the very least. But let's see what else it has to say. The goal for those discussions is for the teams to be awarded some form of economic relief to promote sustainability after each franchise spent somewhere between 7.5 to 10 million in franchise payments over the past 6 years. I might be misremembering, but I thought year 2, the expansion teams ended up paying like 20 million a slot or something like that, as well as more than 1 million in operating costs each year to maintain their teams. Oh, I'm pretty sure a lot of teams, it's well north of 1 million. How much trouble can I get in for saying stuff? I remember like when I was involved in the homestand process when that was first starting in season 3, and many of the teams, at least us, were gonna take like significant losses to host a homestand. Like the cost of the venues versus how much you could charge, because like Overwatch League's audience is either people that are under 18, so that's done, or college age students, and college age students are broke as a joke, so you can't charge $200 a ticket. And so like they were trying to figure out where they could put the spot for like, is it $40, $60? Some teams were all the way up to like $150 or $200. And then I remember teams, and I remember actually being a part of some of these talks and stuff about like how you can actually like sell better packages. For example, there was like ticket packages that, and this isn't like me, I was just stupid in the room. But like these are like people that work in the NFL and the NHL, like professional team ticket managers and people that are like experienced with that, talking about like, can they sell an experience, like, they get to go backstage, player meet and greet and get to skip the line and other like weird stuff, right? But how much they could get away with charging extra for that stuff, because it was so low already. They were just trying to catch up in some form or fashion. And merch, don't even get started about merch. Merch was just basically off the table. Like, merch wasn't making. Sorry, I'm gonna try not to get demonetized. It wasn't making hecking anything. Anyways, for 1 million operating costs for some teams, that means they spent more than 16 million on a league with lackluster viewership and no profitability in sight. Yeah, but that's mostly the league's fault. Like, they've sold out at every turn. Like, if you remember season 2, and also this is a great part of, like, I always felt weird talking about this kind of stuff when I was signed to Mayhem. But now that I'm obviously not signed, I feel like I was never told not to say anything, but I always just felt kind of awkward. But like, you can't argue that Overwatch League hasn't sold out at every turn. Like, year 2 Twitch viewership was like the peak experience we had of esports viewing experience on Twitch. Now I'd say the peak is like Apex ALGS, where you can hear like player comms, but we couldn't hear player comms, but you could buy like that pass for like $25 or something, and then for the whole year you could look at anyone's POV at any time, or like choose specific camera point of views, whether it was the main broadcast or like POV number 2, number 3, number 4, and it was like, you know, there was like people that were spectating from different points of the map, and you could choose like, oh, I like this person's POV, and boom, swap to them and just like watch that for the whole game. You could do so many things. It was awesome. And they sold out for YouTube because YouTube offered them a bunch of money. And I remember when that happened. I was actually still in Overwatch League at that point, and I remember hearing about it, and I was like, we're going to YouTube? Like, wait, what? Why? It was like, it's all about the money. That's it. It was, you know, that's all it was. And, you know, Twitch wasn't willing to pay, and so YouTube was willing to pay, and so they went with the money, and that killed a lot of their viewership going into, you know, the time of Overwatch where it wasn't getting updates anymore. Like there couldn't have been more things that went wrong at the same time. Granted, Overwatch itself had a lot of problems where they abandoned the game to start working on Overwatch 2. The meta was super stagnant, stuff like that, but there's a lot of deep-rooted problems in Overwatch League as well, so let's keep going. Negotiations between the teams, Sheridan's and Activision Blizzard, have only begun, and tensions are high as teams evaluate how they will spend prior to the 2023 season, which begins this spring. Activision Blizzard did not respond to a request for comment. Well, I can't read today. So there's actually a very interesting development in this. This is purely speculative in my own opinion, but they changed the age requirement from 18 to 17 to be able to play in Overwatch League. Granted, they obviously spun it as like, oh no, younger talent can get in sooner. But realistically, what it probably is that they can pay less money to kids to play, because a lot of the teams are broke. And even at the highest we've ever heard, like the whole Mr. 150K, and like, you know, everyone would always talk about like the biggest contracts. Dude, like, realistically speaking, like on a real level, being a professional player, like the #1 professional player, and making $150,000 and living in California really is not that impressive. Like, if you compare that to other esports, or compare that to professional leagues that they were trying to mirror, it really wasn't a whole lot. And that was for being the best of the best on the #1 team, MVP status. You put that down to like what actually like the average player got, they got like just above minimum. And it's like, with how long you last in Overwatch League 2, like players in Overwatch League last like average of 2 years maximum. There's so many deep-rooted problems, like seriously. And a lot of the teams were like, well, we could have picked up 17-year-olds for the 2023 season, or like, you know, possibly, right? Is that because they wanted the younger talent? Probably. Is it also maybe because they could have spent even less money? Well, maybe not, because all the teams are spending less money at this point, but keep going. Discussion among the teams talking about collective action has spanned years, as many have lobbied complaints to the league since the COVID-19 pandemic fundamentally changed the league structure in 2020. I remember that. But the decision to collectively organize is more recent, and in part led by Overactive Media, the ownership group behind the Toronto Defiance. Interesting. Sources said Overactive has previously worked with Sheridan's on transactions related to the League European Championship team Mad Lions. I don't. Anyone what that is? I don't know what that is. No clue. Anyways, it's an org. It's a League of Legends team. Got it. Oh, League European. Okay. I didn't know if that meant League like Champions League or soccer / search football, you know, like type of thing. But anyways. While operating costs in the Overwatch League teams is lower than other esports leagues, such as League of Legends Championship Series. That's interesting. The Overwatch League featured the highest franchise buy-in ever. For the 12 franchises who joined before Season 1, each committed to $20 million franchise tag to be paid over time. Oh, so wait a minute. Was Season 2's even... Wait a minute. According to ESPN, Season 2 expansion team prices were even higher, with the prices ranging from 27 to 35 million. Oh, I was right. So it was... I was wrong, but I was right. I thought it was 20 million for the Season 2 teams. It was 20 million for Season 1 and even higher for Season 2. So, like Paris, oh god, Paris paid somewhere between 27 and 35 million. That's a tough hit, dude. That's tough. In 2020, as many teams faced COVID-related economic difficulty and took Paycheck Protection Program (PPE) loans. Wait, really? Wait, okay, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be that surprised, but in the US, Activision Blizzard deferred the remaining balance. Activision Blizzard later leveled the debt, reducing the balance on the franchise payments down to $16 million for all 20 teams. Each team still owes somewhere between $6 to $7.5 million, according to Activision Blizzard. I'm assuming... Oh, all 20 teams. Wow, so I guess the Season 2 teams kind of got bailed out a little bit. Operating costs still remain high for the teams who aren't owned by major conglomerates or public companies. I would argue, honestly, they're high for everybody, because I worked inside one that was owned by... Would you call the crafter a conglomerate? I don't know if it... I mean, I guess they're kind of they're a group, I guess. I mean, they own multiple professional sports teams, so I guess that kind of counts. I remember they used to complain about operating costs all the time and how expensive it was, so I would argue all the teams have that, but... there's concern around how maintaining a profitless Overwatch League team will affect their bottom line and cash flow and troublesome fundraising environment. This is very true. Well, at least in what I had always heard is like Overwatch League like made nothing. Like homestands weren't making like anything. Merch. Like it was just like kind of L after L after L. Like for how much it costs to get everything done, it's just. Honestly, you can't even be mad at them because they didn't expect this to be a money sink. And probably for a lot of teams, it feels like a money sink. And that's probably transferred over in a lot of ways to teams going budget and trying to save as much money as they can. Even though salary costs probably are... I mean, I don't know this for sure. This is purely speculative and opinion-based. But I wonder if like, player salaries is probably one of the, like, less expenses at this point. Probably not, because historically in most businesses, salary is actually the most expensive thing. But that would have probably been closer to... That probably when they were still in the home and away format. Okay, I take that back. Never mind. In an interview with Houston Chronicle on January 16th, the COO of the Houston Outlaws parent company, Beasley Esports... I remember when they bought it. That's hilarious. I actually... sorry I keep going off on tangents, but this guy who was... what would you call him? Basically, he was like the director of like sales. He was like not my boss, but he was like my boss's equal on a different side. He was a cool dude. He was actually one of the few people I actually like highly respected when I was with Boston. But he actually came to me because they were gonna have dinner with Beasley's group's like heads, and was asking him if I should. Like he was asking me for like some things he should talk about or bring up to them because they were buying them as an esports team and like things to like I don't know. Look out for. I was like, what? Like, what are you... Are you asking for advice? Like, this is a date? Laurie Burgess spoke candidly about the state of the company's revenue and losses of Overwatch League franchise. Burgess said that the team pays some players more than $200,000 per year in salary, and despite $1.4 million in revenues stemming primarily from ad sales, the team is still operating at a loss. said that the team pays some players more than $200,000. Who do you think on Outlaws was making $200,000? I could tell you from old Outlaws who I think might have been making $200,000. Dante. Oh, Dante, you're probably right. Dante, you're probably right. Linkser? Linkser hasn't even been in the league in like years, or at least a year and a half. And he was with Vancouver before that. So like, that's a long time ago. Muma for sure. Early league? No, absolutely not. Early league, I don't think anyone was getting anything close to that money. I think, you know, other than the Thou Shall Not Be Named and Carpe, I think those were the two that were getting the most amount of money. And then I don't know what Super was getting, but I would assume once Super was the full starter, and you know, 200K for season 1. Wasn't there a cap in season 1 though? I thought there was a cap. There's a luxury tax. I thought there was a 150K cap, and that's why all the big players were getting 150. Anyways, though, I'm actually surprised that somebody was. I don't know who. To be honest with you, I don't keep up with Overwatch League as much anymore. BP, you probably know better than I do. But anyways, though, let's keep moving. Revenue share from the league is a lot of it is also at an revenue share from the league is also at an all-time low. Revenue share from each other. Revenue share from the league. League is okay. Okay, so I'm guessing this means from the league as a whole, like everyone, like the league sharing money from deals. Okay, probably because they have no sponsors, but is an all-time low as the league displays zero sponsors on its website and has not signed a major media rights deal since the expiration of its agreement with YouTube this fall. The league lost many of its sponsors in July and August of 2021 after a California Civil Rights Division lawsuit against parent company Activision Blizzard that alleged within the company. As a result, brands like Coca-Cola, Kellogg's, and Cheez-Its and Pringles, and State Farm and T-Mobile paused or terminated their deals with the league in the wake of the news, according to the Washington Post. It's also lost Xfinity, whose sister company Comcast Spectre owns the Sol Inferno, formerly known as the Philadelphia Fusion, in between the 2021 and 2022 season. Okay, interesting. I knew that, but good info. They still got Butterfinger though, so I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming because of the wording on it, Butterfinger was a playoff / Overwatch League final sponsor. So I don't know if you saw, but a lot of streamers even were getting deals with Butterfinger. I actually ended up not getting contacted. I don't know what I did wrong, but hey, you know what? They were like a B tier on my tier list, but hey, whatever. But I think they were doing an overall Overwatch push. I don't know why, but I think that was a timed sponsorship, not a long-term sponsorship. So yeah, it was for playoffs and for grand finals only, and I don't think that was something they were looking to do long-term. I think they were just trying to hit everyone within the Overwatch base, maybe right before Overwatch 2. I don't know why, but like, why not wait? Forget it. Anyways, more broadly, esports is going through what some, including the Overwatch League team executives, have called the esports winter. This is very true. I'm interested to see what it says it here in a minute, but there's actually a lot of teams that are really, really struggling. And a lot of teams got crazy, and this is through all of esports, got crazy amounts of funding in the last few years, especially crypto funding. And because crypto just fell apart and just basically got nuked off the planet, a lot of that money has dried up, and they're looking for returns, and there's not a returns to be made. As esports teams enter mid to late stage in their fundraising cycles, many are struggling to find venture or private equity financing to stay afloat, leading to mass layoffs and significant scaling back on spending to reduce burns. Yeah, I've been seeing all over Twitter people getting laid off left and right on like 100 Thieves, etc. Advertising dollars are also shrinking as brands question the value of spending on esports amid low conversion to their products from esports-centric ad campaigns. That's actually pretty interesting. I wonder how much of that has to do with not only esports shrinking, but a possibility of a looming recession, and companies tightening their wallets a little bit, because they expect consumers aren't going to spend as much and they don't want to lose as much profits. The franchise leagues, including the Overwatch League, its sister Call of Duty League, the LCS and LEC are a key focus in the downturn, given promises made by the publishers Activision Blizzard and Riot Games from 2016 to 2018. They certainly pitched us that the growth of these leagues would be meteoric. And we all drank the Kool-Aid. Misfits Gaming CEO Ben Spoots. Yo, Ben kind of based for this one. Yo, I know I ain't with Misfits anymore. They were always pretty good to me, though. Yo, Ben kind of a legend. Yo, oh, those know, Misfits owns Mayhem. Mayhem kind of shooting deep, you know? I like it. Whose organization owns the Overwatch League's Florida Mayhem and the Call of Duty League's Florida Mutineers. To the New York Times in November, what happened is the growth has not materialized as fast as we hoped. Misfits realized all the money that comes from Minecraft streamers. True. Not wrong. This is actually very, very interesting, though. This whole thing. And, you know, I haven't been following Overwatch League that closely, but there's been so many major misses by Overwatch League over the last few years. At least in my own personal opinion, outside of Overwatch. Granted, genuinely, if Overwatch stayed a good game, I think it would have been fine long term. But things like going to YouTube, years and years ago, people wanted to do like co-stream stuff when co-streaming was like just becoming a thing. Said no. They are very greedy. I don't want to say the word greedy, but they're very old head focused, I guess, where it's like, no, we want everyone watching this main broadcast at all times, and etc. Like, the idea of co-streaming is, right, like, let's say you have 100,000 viewers on a main broadcast, right? And then you have 30,000 in co-streams, right? You have 30,000 in co-streams and 100,000 in main. Is that better than 110,000 in main? To them, yes. To me, no. I think that 130,000 eyes on something is better than, and honestly, I used really small margins there. The margins were actually much higher. You're talking like 150 to 100,000. Sorry, 150,000 with the co-stream versus 100,000 without it, or 110,000 without it. But to them, it was like, oh, like, you know, like, you don't want to like let it go anywhere else because you can't control it or stuff like that. So Overwatch never really had co-streams. It never really did a lot of that stuff. Like, just this year was the first time Overwatch League kind of realized, like, oh, we should probably do this co-streaming thing. And I did a couple co-streams, which was fun. I enjoyed myself. But I even wanted to make content of those co-streams later on because those were so much fun. Which, oh, by the way, I could only do them on YouTube. I couldn't do them on Twitch because they had an exclusive agreement, which is fine. You know, Twitch unlocked us and let us do it. But I wanted to make content of the co-streams, and I couldn't. I was told no because of the possibility that it could end up on another platform. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to go post it on another platform. Like, I'm the one who owns the content. If someone steals my content, that's copyright. It's the same thing as if someone steals your content. Like, what are you kind of getting at? And it was like, I don't know. There's always so much red tape everywhere that it just slows it all down to the point where it doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel as fun. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's turned a lot of people away over time. But y'all know that Overwatch streamers may not always have the best grasp of things, but sometimes they do. So, real fast, I had Retro go through and just grab some opinions from other people around in our space. Craggy responded to this and said, I've been saying this since it started. No way they'd ever make back the 20 mil. Yeah, honestly, not that far-fetched. Craggy also being a former Contenders player, probably saw a lot of it. And, you know, it sucks because even that Contender system is so... to basically become a professional player, you have to play in Contenders, and you play for months, even years on end to make like $50 a month. It's legitimately disgustingly bad. Path to Pro is unironically been named Path to Poverty, and that's not a joke. That's a legitimate reasoning behind it. That's why, at least, I don't know, many other people come in and they always come after me and they're like, why wouldn't you want to be a pro? Like, dude, one, I'm not good enough. And two, if I ever went down that path and decided I'm going to go grind and go contenders and stuff like that, one, it's incredibly difficult to do content and pro play at the same time. And two, it just financially doesn't make any sense. And I think that's why most people who go into Overwatch League and pursue pro play are very young. We're talking 18 years old, 19 years old, because they haven't had to go off into the real world and pay a lot of bills and stuff like that, because it's really hard to be working a 9 to 5 and paying for your apartment and paying for food and car insurance and internet and all that stuff and grind to be a pro player, because one, you don't have the time, you're going to fall behind, and two, you're probably not making enough to really make all those things meet. Real talk. So Gale said, this is what happens. Blizzard goes full casual. They alienated the competitive audience, stripped the rank system of all satisfaction. Okay, I feel like this isn't like pertaining to it, but Path Pro was poorly done. True. Swapping from Twitch to YouTube was an L. True. Except for the money. Obviously they got paid. Zero interesting advertising was done for the league. That is actually a big one. I don't think they advertise Overwatch League very well. Predicting goes under. Okay, next, Samito. This isn't a big surprise. The way the game has been designed for years went against the interest of pro play. The people who worked on Overwatch League are not accountable for this. They've been great. The leader at Activision are responsible. I feel like this is, again, like, kind of being a little bit upset at, like, the Blizzard balance team at the moment. But not wrong, though. It is definitely Blizzard's way is to not admit they're wrong. It always has been. And they're finally reaping what they've sown. Linkster's shocked Pikachu face. This was a favorite for me. And then this was an interesting one Retro sent me, which isn't a pro, but this is coming from one of the biggest supporters of Overwatch League. Dissolve the league, give support and power to grassroots event organizers, and let Apex come back. Actually, low-key base take. Apex Overwatch was honestly probably the best Overwatch ever in terms of competitive play. And how fun it was to watch and to experience. But I don't think that's ever going to come back unless Overwatch League legitimately went under. So, anyways, though, what do you think, chat? Do you think Overwatch League's in a little bit of trouble?